I always tell people who come to me for advice that, hey, I want to be guild president at the university. I tell them, it's a good feeling being one, but are you ready for the responsibility that it comes with? That is where the issue comes in. Some of me, the reason probably I became guild, I started working already in that capacity as guild president even before I was elected. Now, if we could all have that kind of mindset, 1 year is going to be a lot of time. Me, by the time I was reaching the 8th month of my leadership, I was already tired. I'm like, I think I've done enough. It was now time for me to start giving people roles. I'm like, okay, you go do this, and prepare someone who will take over leadership from me. But 1 year is enough.
1 year is enough. Elizabeth, 1 year. 1 year. Is it enough to cover ground as a student leader?
Well, now when we are addressing matters of leadership, people tend to be a bit controversial, and I really do appreciate that. But I also, like Robinson stated, I also don't think that to make impact or to be a good leader requires a bunch of years. Because in most cases, if you're really a person who has been nurtured to be a leader, someone who is called to lead or to serve people, you always venture into things and you look at things in a light of, okay, I have maybe, I have been given this office. This is what I have found. This is what I knew about it. So how am I supposed to add a stone or a brick on this kind of leadership? So I feel like when someone has already made a basis and has stand, like Robinson was saying, that, you reach a point when you're already exhausted. You feel like, okay, I have done enough. Let me delegate. Let me nurture someone. So I feel like if every leader gets into office and then they realize the different issues and they happen to do something to solve them, unless they are not yet comfortable that, okay, there's something still missing, let them bring in someone. Because if UNSA is looking at nurturing people, that means that because we are looking at a number of people, there are very many students who are interested in leadership. So if it's looking at nurturing people and giving us this 1 year, actually it gives multiple students an opportunity, yes, to take part in the leadership circle. So I think 1 year is enough for student leadership. And I think the government should pick a leaf from this whole 1 year thing.
Interesting. Elizabeth just said what she said. I want to add. Calvin, because I am now conflicted. There is, self-discovery. There's discovery of the system that you're working for or working against. Is 1 year enough, in your opinion, to cover ground?
Personally, I would appreciate the submission of Robinson. He seems to be a man of focus. I happened to watch closely his campaigns for Guild when he was running. And I discovered one thing. We have young people who are running for office without purpose. When you are running for an office, let's say Guild, UNSA, you must have a reason why you're running. And you learn the system, because you can't beat the system without learning it. So for me, any person who raises excuses that I was in parliament for 5 years only, I was in office for 1 month, that's nonsense. A year is big enough to make an impact. You don't need to fight everything that has been bad in the office. Make one thing that is going to be remembered about you. Like how Robinson did his work, how people are doing their work in different organizations. Be of an impact. We have heard of Jennifer Msisi, all of us. She has an impact that we shall never forget her. Up to now, people want her to come back for executive director. There is a reason. So it doesn't matter how long you spent in office. It just matters how much work you have done in the time you have been there. And that all depends on the reason why you're in office.
That we have leaders that are running without purpose, that's for sure. From the Secretariat, in terms of, the different leaderships that have been coming and going after 1 year, do you feel there's a lot of achievement for young people in 1 year?
You see, there is nothing that you can, there's no influence that you can make if you choose to be indifferent to what you see. And if you must act, if you choose to be indifferent, you won't act, and there will be no changes that will be made, right? always want to underscore the fact that we deal with human beings, you know, who have, besides what they're supposed to be doing to the general public, they also think there are certain things that they need to do for themselves. In an instance that one's individuality overrides the purpose to why they're in a particular space, it affects their delivery ultimately. Then that becomes a problem. So over time, we have seen somebody before coming into UNSA has a very clear plan. But along the way, I don't know what kind of excitement it drives them off the lane. And at the end of the day, they don't deliver, right? But also, one of the challenges that we have, as my brothers here are talking about, the influence of let me say, parties, political parties. These leaders who come at UNSA, guild president in certain institutions, universities, and while running campaigns, they actually get affiliated to certain political parties. In the event that now this person is there, he has personal things to do, he has interest of the political party, he has interest of the students' body. Then that mind, if it is not a focused mind like these brothers of mine have been saying, they lose it out. You know, at the end of the day, if their target was 30, by the time by the time it's like 6 months into, he has only done like 5% of what they should have done. So that is a problem. And then we think that the idea of a comprehensive mentorship strategy or leadership strategy for the students is very important. So that we can then help them understand that if you are in this space, this is your opportunity for you with this space and for whoever is within this space for you at that particular time. When you're out of that space, then you have another space. So then we give in our very best at that particular time to cause an impact. And I think such leadership programs are very, very important and good enough. We together with the student guild leaders of different universities, we have that going to be coming up soon.
You're checked. It is true to be conscious about security, but then again, their interest in the elections wasn't only about security.
Is this a scare tactic?
Yeah, of course it is. When Welunga was coming into an election that very morning, Welunga came out of the cell in the morning. And he came in for the elections with dirty clothes, and we were like, Mr. President, what's up? I'm from the cell.
Why?
What crime had he committed? He had different agendas that did not align to the agendas of the people who direct UNSA.
Period.
Just as simple as that. So, not being part of a political party, I see there is no problem not being part of one. But if you look at what challenge we're trying to face, what challenge we're facing as a country, this country is entirely facing the challenge of poverty. Everyone is poor. Yeah. All these political parties are trying to solve that same problem. When you look at the manifesto of NRM, you go to DP, you go to FDC, you come to NUP, and all the other ones. All their agendas are geared towards elevating poverty. Now, there is no difference about these political parties. But the people who are misinformed about the agendas of these political parties think we are fighting. That is why you'll find in a conversation an NRM person doesn't want to listen to an NUP person. Because the NRM thinks they're in control of the resources. NUP is trying to tell them, yeah, you're in control of these resources. The only thing we're trying to say is, let's have an alternative form of governance. That where you're putting these resources are not right. Let's put it here. We're having people who are dying of malaria in Uganda in 2023. People should not be dying of malaria. So let's do it this other way. NRM thinks by so doing that, we're dancing to the tunes of NUP. So the people at the ground level who subscribe to these political parties think we are being radical. Yet we are all trying to solve the same challenge, and that is poverty. And so I think in our discussions as young people, we need to understand that all these political parties are not fighting themselves. They're coming to solve a problem in the community. And if we could only listen to each other and get to know, okay, if we are putting this billion of shillings in healthcare, where are we leaving the rest of the people? I was in a discussion last week somewhere, and the person told me he's a policy maker. And he told me, Robinson, you know, at the moment, we can bear to have these potholes in Kampala, but we can't bear to have people in DRC Congo dying of hunger.
Okay.
Now, if you look at some of these discussions, you might think,
It's just like what's happening.
what will an NUP person think?
Yes.
Unless we start having these conversations out in the open, no one is going to agree on what the government needs to do. But when he
Clearly.
explained to me, I also realized, I'm like, oh, I think the potholes can wait.
Yes,
Let's first handle this.
that's a very pertinent discussion. I wanted to find out from Elizabeth. We're shifting now. Of course, we want to look at this year and the cabinet that is in place, led by Bill Clinton. What are your hopes as a young person, as a student at Cavendish, as a student of UNSA? What exactly do you hope that this cabinet solves?
The very first issue that I would like this cabinet to do is bring all the obligations and the mandate of UNSA down to the level of the students. Because it's only concentrated in you people, the people on the desk, on the bench. But the students that are down here, they do not know what you people are up to. They don't know about UNSA. They don't know what your obligations are. They actually think that it is a prestigious sort of thing. I mean, someone becomes the president or maybe a member of UNSA and they post on their status and be like, oh, congratulations, and that is it. So would really love you people to come on ground and sort of practically put your mandate, make it live in the students.
This is feedback for Bill Clinton and his cabinet. We have students that don't feel like there is an UNSA somewhere, and they want that this year it trickles down to the last student.
Yes, actually, Tracy, it's not just about Cavendish University. Personally, because you people also go to secondary schools, right? I was from Budo, and I didn't feel UNSA. And yet our fees structure had UNSA. But I didn't know what they meant by UNSA. So you should go to secondary schools as well.
I don't know where is the money going, but also I think for everyone that's listening in, how old is UNSA?
UNSA has been in existence since 1844. That was when it was established, and it was formerly called NUSU. When the government of Idi Amin abolished and then UNSA was also removed. Then in the until around in the history around I can't be very sure of the exact year, but in the 19 something there, that is when it was reinstated from Makerere University, year 1988, and called now given a new name, the National Students Association. So from then up to now, UNSA has been in existence. So when you ask, okay, how comes you didn't know about it? Yeah, those are some of the things that we are discussing.
This is a big challenge. And I think I want to speak to how, for example, government has agencies and ministries. Do you feel UNSA is too big? We need to split UNSA so that we have UNSA University, UNSA Secondary School, because if Budo is still under the same bracket as MUBS and still under with a primary school, we have an issue. Is it too big?
The structures of UNSA, I said that we have the district executive committee. So each district has got UNSA structure, right? Now, in the universities, the UNSA structure is the guild leadership, all right? So meaning that if we call for our leaders at the universities, the guild presidents will be the ones to appear, all right? Now, if you see, last year we had a guild presidents council in Gulu. We had most of the guild leaders, they came for the guild council, right?
That.
So we gave them certain things to work on in their universities. So some went and implemented them. So for somebody who does not understand structures of UNSA, will be like, okay, this is just this guild president. But this guild president is implementing what came from up. So I wanted us also to
Yeah.
hear
I think
where
Yes.
if we are done with this discussion, we should also, since 1988, currently there is an ongoing probe on NSSF. I think we also need to look at the finances. Yeah?
Clearly, I
What
think
we have
Robinson,
used this money
you want
for.
to head the COSASE for UNSA?
You know, at first I actually expected the ES to be here himself. And I still think he can come.
We will still try and make
Because
sure he comes.
I also think that position of ES has a very big issue. The gentleman has been there for years, and for you to be ES, it is a very serious political ground that some of these coordinators that fight to bring in leaders also fight to be
ES.
executive secretaries.
Yeah.
So UNSA just has a lot of things, but I would want to interest the general public into the affairs of UNSA. And so if we are not feeling the impact of UNSA, even to the grassroots, then an investigation needs to be started on UNSA. Not only in terms of its leadership, but also the finances.
Yes.
And I think,
Because
yeah.
it collects a lot of money. The outgoing leadership, the leadership that is already out, have they sworn in already, the new ones?
no, they haven't sworn.
Not yet. So the outgoing leadership at some point had a very serious discussion that they ended up splitting because of the issue of money. And so there is an investigation that needs to be started on UNSA. Because maybe there is a problem, there is something that's going on that is making us not feel the impact of UNSA. But I want to agree with my sister Elizabeth that UNSA needs to get out of that house. Yeah? You need to get out of that office and get down to the grounds and listen to the students. There are very many issues that needs to be handled and very many good ideas that the students have. I would want UNSA this year to focus on what the government is focused on, and that is poverty eradication. But how best can the students come in to ensure that we eradicate poverty from this country? I think this is the kind of discussion we're supposed to now be having. I was very happy when I saw, was it UNSA bringing together the National Council? I think it was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. They had a very clear discussion on some of these things. Now we're having a debate that is not so much up about how important it is for us to have PLE results coming out and how does it determine the future of a kid. Because if someone has a first grade, a second grade, and a third grade, there are schools around the country that can't take someone who has a second grade or even a third grade.
Let me interest you. First grade. Just start there.
No,
we have a
this
problem
is-
with super.
Yeah,
first
now this
grader.
is the discussion that UNSA needs to be having. I might get a third grade, not because I'm stupid.
Of course.
It has happened.
Yeah? And these powerful schools, surprisingly, this is pathetic. Even government institutions are chasing away students. We can only admit 4, 5, 6, upwards, we can't.
12 is the
And these are
maximum.
government students. These are people who came from government primary schools, crossing over to government institutions for secondary school education, and UNSA is quiet.
AMCI Radio for African Voices.